is a horrible idea. I'm not going to be able to get it done in time. What am I going to do? And I changed my presentation right there. And the reason I changed my presentation, because I just thought about, what do I need to do to be successful to get on this team? And it wasn't about all these other things I just thought about real time. What am I actually doing? I'm trying out to be part of a team. So why don't I do a presentation about what it's about to be on a team and what is a good team? So I did the whole presentation on norming, storming, forming, norming, storming, and performing. And I'm sure you guys know all that stuff. We can talk about that later and offline. Yeah, you do remember that one?
I remember. I was there.
So anyways, it worked out good as it fit in the time slot, and I felt like I was able to get my point across. And I was able to relate it to the situation I was in right then at the time, which was great. So anyways, moving forward to where we're at now. So again, we're going to do a little test here on proprioception. Now, just like any exam, right? Before you go to an exam, you prepare, you train. So I'm going to have you guys train right now. We're going to do a little training section here, and I'm going to take you guys through this piece. So if you guys can set up your laptops or your computer, whatever, in front of you so your hands are free, you're good to go, and I should be able to see at least chest up to your head. Yeah, and all we want to do is we're going to go ahead and put our hands up above our head. Cool. And all I want you to do is on your right hand, stick up your index finger, and your left hand, stick your fingers out far apart. Cool. And all we're going to do here is you're going to take your right hand towards your left hand. And when I tell you, you're going to go ahead and put your index finger and touch your thumb. Can you do that? Yeah, okay, pull it away. Now go ahead and touch your index finger to your other index finger. Cool. Now touch your index finger to your middle finger. Cool. And this time, let's see if we can keep our left hand still and just move our right hand. And let's go ahead and touch our index finger to our ring finger. Now index finger to pinky. All right. Pretty easy, right? Not so bad. You know, it's funny. When I first started doing that, I was watching myself on the computer screen, and that actually messed me up.
I'm just going to say it turns into visual acuity if you're watching.
This is not looking at yourself. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and test ourselves on this now. However, with every test, right, we have the ability to be successful, and we have the ability to be unsuccessful. Now, with unsuccessfulness, sometimes there's consequences. So therein lies the ice, the sharp object, and the third piece, which I haven't mentioned yet. Now, the third piece is going to be a dance, okay? And this dance, you're going to perform this dance, and when you perform this dance, we're then going to video it, and then we'll share it on social media at a later date. So it'll get broadcasted out. Now, the dance is going to look something like this dance, okay? I'll show you guys an example. Sure you guys are familiar with this, right? The American Pie sexy dance. That move right there is perfect. Okay. So those are the three consequences: the cold ice, the sharp object, or the embarrassing dance, sexy dance that we'll post up of you. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and do this. And as we do this, we're going to do this one at a time. Okay. And then as you do this, you're going to first tell us whether you thought you were successful or not. And then I'm going to be the examiner, and I'm going to tell you whether you were successful or not. All good? So who would like to go up first? Oh, Lynn, thank you so much for volunteering. So Lynn, what you're going to do, you're going to do what we just said. And I'm going to give you the instructions. And when I give you the instructions of the pointer finger of touching your index finger to another, another point on your hand, okay, I'm going to change it up to what finger. So don't go until I tell you the directions, okay? But the kicker is you got to do this with your eyes closed.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's true proprioception, right? So we want to see if you understand where you are in space. Okay, you ready? Get your hands up, Lynn. You're up first. Okay, we got to be able to see your hands. Can you drop your hands a little bit or move your computer screen back? Yeah, there you go. Okay, right hand, index finger. Right hand, index finger. Yep. Let's go ahead and touch your right finger to your ring finger of your left hand. Okay, go back. And now without moving your left hand, touch your index finger to your pinky of your left hand. Okay, go back. Now let's go ahead and touch your index finger to your middle finger of your left hand. Okay, now let's go back. This time I want you to keep your left hand and don't move your left hand. Only move your right hand and touch your thumb of your left hand. Okay, okay, great, Lynn. So Lynn, open your eyes, you're all done. Tell me, how do you think you did?
I did pretty well because I practiced this a lot.
Okay. I would say that you passed actually. So I'm gonna give you a thumbs up on that one. So well done.
No striptease.
Good job. Okay, so now we're gonna go through the rest of you guys, and that was just a quick indicator of how it's gonna work. But the rest of you guys, we're gonna go through you guys, and I'm not gonna tell you if you pass or fail yet, right? Because you don't find out until the end of the day if you pass or fail. I'm just gonna give you some feedback when you're done with it. But first, you're gonna give me the feedback as to where you thought you were. Does that sound good? Sweet. Cody, you're up, homie.
All right.
All right. When you're ready, Cody, go ahead and put your right hand up, index finger. Yep, and your left hand up. Go ahead and put your hands up a little bit higher. Yep. Keep your eyes closed. Let's go ahead and touch your right index finger to your left middle finger without moving your left hand. Okay. Go back. Okay, let's go ahead and touch your right index finger to your left thumb without moving your left hand. Okay, nice one. Let's go ahead and see if you can touch your pinky finger of your left hand. Okay, sweet. All right, Cody, you can open up your eyes. How do you think you did?
I struggled on the first one a little bit. The second one was fairly good. The third one was not as bad as the first one, but not as good as the second one.
All right. So yeah, I think initially you turned your left hand a little bit and rotated it. So it made it a little bit easier for your right hand to find the fingers of your left hand, which was an interesting tactic where you didn't have to go over the top of the other fingers to find each finger. So that was interesting. But we'll get into your results here in a little bit.
Can I defer to the third day of the exam?
What? Yeah, exactly.
Can I defer to the third day of the exam and not find out today?
No, you're going to have to find out today. Sorry. This is a one-day exam, bro. Corey, you're up. Dun, 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 dun.
Okay.
Okay, Corey, we're going to change things up with you a little bit because you're a goofy rider, right?
No, I'm a regular. I ride the chairlift goofy. I'm a regular rider.
Okay. Okay, well, perfect. If you're a regular rider, you're going to go ahead and put up your index finger of your left hand and spread your fingers of your right hand. There you go. Okay, cool. So now, again, close those eyes. Okay, let's go ahead and touch your left index finger to your ring finger of your right hand. Okay, go back. Okay, let's go ahead and touch your middle finger of your left hand.
Of my.
Sorry, your left index finger to your right hand. Yeah, there you go. Okay, go back. And now let's go over and see if we can touch that pinky finger. Okay, sweet. Corey, open your eyes. How do you think you did?
I feel like I could have had a little more confidence in my delivery of which finger I was hitting. I feel like I was a little cautious every time I did it to make sure I did it correctly.
I agree. Your movements were a little slow, and you didn't always go to the tip of the finger. You kind of went a little bit lower down at times. But that's all right. Cool. Let's go ahead and move this thing along a little bit. So this time we're going to have two go at the same time. All right. Team Utah. We're going to have Addie and Jamie and Damo. All three of you guys. Hands up. All right. And go ahead. And we're going to go, all you guys, we're going to go goofy footed on this one. So you guys are all going to be right hand with your index finger. Right. And let's go ahead and touch our left hand. Let's go with our index finger of our left hand. Ooh. Addie, nice one. Okay, okay, go back. Okay, now let's go to pinky of your left hand. Ooh, pretty good, pretty good. Okay, go back. And now let's go to thumb of your left hand. Ooh. Okay, great. Okay, go back. Okay, you can open up your eyes. Team Utah. Cool. So let's, Addie, how do you think you went?
80.
80.
No worries. I think I did okay.
Okay.
I had the hardest one for me was my pinky.
Yeah.
A little off that, right? Yeah.
So you kind of like got over there and you kind of swam around for it and you found out where it was and kind of slid.
Yeah. I was a little more direct with my pointer and my thumb.
I agree.
Yeah.
What about you, Damo?
I didn't do as well as I expected to do. To be honest, I normally do that. I feel I'm better at that normally. I was off.
Okay.
Not sure if it was feeling other space or what, but yeah.
Okay. And off to me, meaning that you weren't as quick or as precise?
Wasn't as accurate as I expected to be. Like thumb, I was surprised I fished from my thumb a little bit.
Okay. Cool. All right. No worries. And then what about you, Jamie?
Actually felt like I did better than I expected.
Yeah.
Especially with the first two, but the thumb, I maybe hit just a little bit lower. I think I got a little cocky on the last one where I was like, oh, I got this. Those first two went great. And I missed it a little bit, but.
Yeah. So I thought, Jamie, you were actually pretty quick with the movement across, but you weren't always accurate with getting it right on the end of the finger. Sometimes it was a little bit lower down. But that's all right. That's all right. And Damo, yeah, I thought that you were moving a little bit slower, bro. But that's all right. Cool. Hey, Lindsay, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go ahead and are you a regular or goofy rider?
Regular.
Regular. Okay. So we're gonna go left hand index finger and right hand fingers spread nice and wide. Let's go ahead and go right hand to your left middle finger. Or sorry, right middle finger.
Oh no, I totally missed it.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Wrong finger.
Okay. Let's go left index finger, this time to right ring finger. That's not the right one. Yeah. There you go. Cool. Let's go one more try on this. Let's try and see if we can find where the thumb is. Find that thumb.
I got it.
Okay. All right, great. Nice, Lindsay. So let's hear your feedback for yourself.
That was a struggle. That was also the first time I've ever done that. And I don't know if like having experience doing it before changes how you perform. I think I can do better if I like try again.
Okay, no worries. Cool. Well done. I thought it was interesting how your approach changed a little bit from the first finger to the last finger, right? I mean, the thumb you're closer, where the other ones you just went to the wrong finger.
Yeah.
which is pretty funny. But that's all right. Cool. Hey, Tyson, you ready, buddy?
Oh, let's do it.
All right, man. Regular or goofy?
Regular.
All right. Left hand index finger up. And right finger. All right. You're going to go first all the way to that right or that right hand pinky finger. Where is it? There it is. So wait. Okay, this time we're going to try not to move that right hand. And we're going to go see if we can find the middle finger. Where is it? There it is. Okay, cool. Let's see if we can find where the ring finger is. Yeah, boy. Cool. All right, you're all done, Tyson. How do you think you did, bro?
I think this started off rough, but I got better as I went.
Yeah, I agree. The first one you're kind of moving both hands, and I don't know if that helped you or hurt you. Actually, I think you almost moved when you moved the right hand to try to find the left hand with it. I thought that hurt you a little bit, but I thought when you kept it still the next couple times, I thought it went better. Mm-hmm. Nice. All right, Team Aspen. Conrad, Dana. You guys ready?
Yeah.
You guys, Goofy or Reg?
Reg.
Regular.
Reg. Okay, left hands are going. All right, close your eyes. And let's see. Dana, can you turn your hand? So it's like, yeah, so we can see the fingers. There you go. Cool, cool, cool. All right, we're going to go for that ring finger first, guys. Nice. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Now let's go for the index finger. Nice. Well done. Okay, let's go pinky finger. Ooh, okay, cool, cool. Nice. How do you think you went?
My first one wasn't as good as my second two.
I agree. For sure. Dana, how do you think you went on the first one?
The first and second ones were pretty spot on, like right on the pad of the finger. And then the pinky was just like a little bit to the side of like where I was aiming.
I thought it was interesting too. On your first one, you were really delayed. Like you were a bit slow to go. Like you took a second to think about it and then you went over. I don't know what you were internalizing there when I said that, but yeah, I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I agree. Your first two were more accurate for sure. Cool. Who do we got next? We still got old Hargraves, eh?
Yep.
Yeah, buddy. Let's see what you got.
All right.
All right, there he is. Okay, let's see if we can find that ring finger first. There it is. Yeah, boy. All right, let's see if we can go find that pinky. Interesting. Okay, cool. Okay, without moving your fingers on your left hand this time, let's see if we can find your index finger. Yeah, boy. Solid. Cool, cool, cool. All right, all done. What do you think?
I think I started slowing down because I didn't want to miss. So then I started reaching with the other finger. So, all right, just bring them together.
Yeah.
I had no idea where they were. I just sort of guessed.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Like it's almost like you're moving your left hand to help your right hand find it easier. Like,
Yeah,
get out a little bit.
it was weird.
It was you were definitely being cautious as you were doing it. I agree with that. Nice. And let's go to the roomie, Mike. You ready, bro? He should be spot on this because he's practiced it. So this should be spot on. Go ahead and close your eyes.
Have I practiced this, Tony?
Oh, well, I think, yeah. Let's see if we can go ahead and see if you can find that pinky finger. Okay, sweet. Let's go index finger. Nice one. Okay. Let's go now for middle finger. Whoa. That's the one, yeah. Sweet. Nice one, bro. Cool. All right. What do you think, Mike? How did you do?
Well, to your point, I knew this was coming. Did I practice? No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Sweet. So, so obviously you got the first two were better than the third one for sure.
Yeah. So I'm just as good as I was when we discussed this a week ago. Nothing's changed.
Sweet. Perfect. All right. So with that, the final results are in. We're going to do that. And I'm going to go ahead and give you guys your final results. But with your final results, we're going to see how close you are to what you thought how you thought you did. Corey.
Is this on a scale of 1 to 6?
Yes, sort of something like that. Cool. All right, so the results are here. Can you guys see that? I can go ahead and read them out to you. Lynn passed, Dana passed, Conrad passed, Chris, sorry, homie, you did not pass.
Bummer.
Mike definitely did not pass. Tyson, you passed, bro. Cody, you passed. Cody just barely, bro. Lindsay, I'm sorry, that was not it. Corey, that was a little bit slow. I was a little bit disappointed there. I think you could have done a little bit better. 80, yeah, you passed. Jamie, good to go. Damo, sorry, bro. You got to work on that. Work on the speed. So with every fail, there's some consequences, right? So we have 3 consequences, and let me just talk to you guys about what these consequences signify, right? So we're going to work them from back to front. So the dancing, embarrassing dance, that's like, you know, if you go and take your exam and you fail, you're worried about being embarrassed by your peers. You're worried about letting people down and being embarrassed. You don't want people to know that you went and did your exam. You don't want people to know maybe you were unsuccessful, right? So there's the fear of that, okay? Or you have the sharp object. You got that guy right there, right? So that's like the fear of injury, right? If you do something wrong, like say you mess up your 360s, you could spank yourself. So it could be quite painful, right? And then there's the third one, right? And that's like self-detrimental, the ice, right? It's going to be cold. It's, that's kind of like, you think about like, if you don't pass, you can't, you won't be able to pay rent. You won't get that raise. You won't get bump up in the priority level system in your school and stuff like that. Other people probably don't mind, you know, they like that you gave it a go. You're not going to be injured. It's not the end of the world, but to you, it is the end of the world because, man, you're so bummed out about it. So the idea of this is those of you guys that were unsuccessful, I'm sorry, but you're going to have a date with your ice. So that ice is going to have to go, you know how your shirt is tucked in? Yeah. So you know where the ice is going, right? Yeah, that ice is going to go down your shirt. But we can hold off a couple minutes until we finish up this whole presentation. What I'd like to do now is just go back and just reflect on what we're doing, right? So think about your exam and think about when you're training at your school, and it was like the presentation the challenge there that we did with the eyes open. You can train until you're blue in the face and you're doing it well. You're doing it in a safe, friendly environment, right? And you're gaining the skills. And that to me is when you should be gaining the understanding of what you need to do and where you're at and how you need to do it. But are you really working on your ability to be able to do it anything, anytime, anywhere? Are you able to do it when the snow isn't perfect, when the people around you you're not familiar with and maybe you're nervous? When the weather is a bit off, when your fatigue level, all those sorts of things. So being able to put in enough practice hours, right? They have the whole 10,000 hours thing, putting in enough practice hours so where you're prepared to do it. And it's not that you have done it before, it's that you can do it. It's not that you have done it before, it's that you can do it. My example of this, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a prep or training at my home school at Copper, and I'm working on somebody, say we're working on 360s, and say they finally land their 360. And then they tell me, Tony, I'm going to go ahead and sign up to my exam. Just because you have done a 360 doesn't mean you can do it all the time. And then they go to their exam and then they wonder why they're so nervous because of their self-awareness. Do they truly own that trick? Can they do it whenever they need to be able to do it? Those sorts of things. So those are the things that we think about, like limiting those external factors of like the mental side. The mental side gets in the way of the physical side if you're not prepared and if you're not comfortable with it. My great friend Sean Thompson, the head coach of the New Zealand national team, I don't know if you know him, Hargraves, great guy. He coaches the Olympic athletes over there, and they do a lot of training in New Zealand when the weather is bad, right? When the light is flat, when the snow conditions are icy, when it's super windy. And the reason for that is it's about being able to do those tricks that you have, those old tricks, anytime, anywhere. And so the idea of that is when you go to your competition, hopefully you're going there with old tricks. Hopefully you're going to your exam with old tricks. Be able to do all that stuff. Have ownership of that stuff versus going there with new tricks and going there and being like, oh God, I've never actually done a 360 off a park jump before. I've only done it on side hits. Oh my God, we'll see how this works out, right? And I can imagine that person's going to be really, really nervous. So the idea of that is where does proprioception fit into that? Proprioception fits into it is understanding is where you are in space. When you're getting feedback from your trainer at your home resort, being able to take that feedback and understanding where you are and how you're doing that. What is that? If you close your eyes and listen to that feedback, does that match the same image you have of yourself doing that trick or that task or that movement pattern or whatever, that skill, whatever it is? Does it match? I always talk about one of the things I always like to give people is key indicators. Key indicators. What must happen? What must you feel to know if this is happening or if this isn't happening? Like for example, like when you're doing pivot slips, for example, you must be able to keep the same amount of speed on your toe side and your heel side when you're doing a pivot slip. A lot of people end up doing pivot stops. A lot of people end up rotating more on one side than they do on the other side. Are they feeling the same, the oblique stretching from one side to the other side? Those could be key indicators, right? So the more you can give as trainers, the more you can give your trainees key indicators as to whether they're successful or not, or the more you can give them key indicators of, more you can think about key indicators for yourself of whether you're successful or not, the more you can make adjustments on the fly at your exam and things like that. Does anybody else have any ideas as to ways to be successful of knowing where you are in space and knowing whether you're achieving something or not achieving something? Yeah, Lynn.
I can usually see a picture in my head of how I'm doing. I'm confident enough that I will say next time I take an exam with you after you score me and have a scorecard ready, ask me how I did first. Okay.
I accept that. I accept that challenge. Perfect. That's awesome. Cool. And that could be because you've examined it with me so many times that you know how I score. No, I'm just kidding. That's awesome. But that's awesome. That's having a lot, like, I know you work so hard on your writing and you have a lot of awareness of where you are and what you've done. And some of the things that you talk about of how you move your hips through a turn and, it is great. And so that's exactly what I'm talking about here. Anybody else have anything that they use? Yeah. What do you got, McKellar?
I've done an exercise over at Keystone with the crew once. Pretty basic stuff that everybody should know how to do, but paired them up and then had one person be blindfolded and have them come down the hill. And it changed the game. Just taking the eyesight away took a lot of their balance, a lot of their confidence, a lot of everything that they relied on as a given, and put them under stress and see how they performed from that point onwards. Really opened their eyes as to their ability and what they should be focusing on next.
Yeah, I like that. That's a real good one. The old guided riding, and it's real interesting to be able to do that. And can you, like, the funny thing is like everyone's like, oh, that's like riding blind, but it's actually not. It's a little bit easier than riding blind, because if you're riding blind, you wouldn't have seen that terrain and the pitch of the terrain before you close your eyes. So what you're actually doing is you're taking a snapshot of what the terrain is like, and then trying to memorize what it's like, and like, oh yeah, this is that steep section, and so on and so forth. But I think that's an awesome exercise. I really like that, Mike. That's good stuff. Yeah, Corey.
Something that you can do, and it's going towards RMT, is those walk the talks if you want to build your proprioception. Being able to explain it and have someone film you and then go back and watch and be like, whoa, I said one thing, but I did another thing. Or I thought I was doing this and this is what I said, but it's not totally to the degree that I want it to be. Yep. So to build that proprioception, I think having some sort of tool to actually see yourself is probably the best way to do that. I do that when I coach all the time. People are like, my toes were pointed, and I'm like, no, they weren't. Let me show you. And they're like, I guess they weren't. So. Yeah,
that's perfect. I do an exercise. I do a lot of exercise where isolating joints, for example. And I do this thing, like, for example, this is a great one. And I encourage you guys to try this out next time you get on snow. But I'll tell people, I'm like, hey, I want you to roll from edge to edge, only using your ankle joint. And if you do this right, when you go to your toes, your head should go up. And if your head goes down, you're a dirty cheater and you're using your knees or your hips, right? But if you're not using your knees and your hips, when you go to your toes, how you go to your toes only using your ankles? Well, you're going to extend the ankle, right? So therefore, it's like you're going up on your tippy toes and your head's going to go up. So that's a great, another one that's like, again, a key indicator if you're doing it right or doing it wrong. And if you can deliver exercises like that with key indicators, then they're so much more useful versus being like, okay, I want everybody to feel this and try to do this. And then everyone's maybe doing it a little bit, but not quite. And there's not a really good key indicator as to what they're actually doing. Another way, another tool you could use is narrowing your scope, right? I talk about this all the time. So again, prior to going into a set of tasks or showing a set of skills, think about, what do I need to do to achieve this? Which joints do I need to move? How much do I move those joints? Which muscles do I fire? What should the track on the snow look like when I'm done with this? All of those things will come together, and then you can tick off each one of those. If the track is supposed to be like this, but it's actually like this, nah, that wasn't it. You know, so on and so forth. And this starts getting you into self-training. Instead of only training when you're at a clinic or with a trainer, you start self-training. This brings me into one of my final points. And I don't want to go too long, so I want to wrap this up. But this is the thing that kills me the most as a trainer and examiner. When people are training for a level 2 exam or a level 3 exam or RMT, and they say, Tony, I haven't been able to train this last 2 weeks because of spring break, and all I've been doing is lower level lessons. I'm calling bullshit. If you can't train when you're teaching lower level lessons, then you're missing some of the key elements. So what I tell people, I'm like, you can train for an RMT exam when you're doing a level 1 lesson. You can train for your level 3 upper level riding task when you're teaching level 1 lessons. And the way you do this is being more specific and precise. I can tell you there's a lot of people that go out there and they go give a demo of like a one-footed J turn or a floating leaf or a garland, and they're so lazy. And we're all like, we've been doing it for years and we're so lazy. And if you're in New Zealand, Damo and Jamie will tell you this, because especially Jamie, because I just had her in an exam, and we do low-level demos and your trainer's cert exam, right, Jamie? And I think we did C turns, and I think we did garlands or something like that, and J turns. And we would be so picky on what was done well and what wasn't done well, whether the movements were blended or whether they weren't blended, and what was the outcome of it not being blended. And when you start really being picky and precise with those lower level movements, that will up the game of the upper level movements. And to be honest, a lot of times when you start picking up the speed and you pick up the intensity and the terrain, a lot of shit gets hidden anyways. So when you go lower level like this, a lot of times you can't hide some of those things, and you need to be super precise with that stuff. So I challenge, those guys that are training for those upper levels whilst taking lower level lessons, and to be really precise. And even like when you get into things like movement analysis and stuff like that, be real direct and precise and lay things out directly, instead of telling a lot of us when we teach students, we say, hey, flex your back knee a little bit. Hey, do this a little bit more. Hey, do that. And we just want to fix people before telling them what's happening and why it's happening. So getting a little bit more in that and pulling things apart a little bit will give you a better understanding and help your delivery methods. So when you start delivering real clear, precise, clean feedback at your level 2, 3, and RMT exams, it's a little bit easier and forthcoming. Those are the things I'd like to wrap up with, is just try to give us some tools as to be more successful as we go into exams. Again, one of those tools today here was proprioception, understanding where you are in space and really working on that. And then moving into some of these key indicators, narrowing the scope, and training whilst teaching lower levels, whilst going to an upper level exam. Without that, I'll open it up for questions and things like that. And then we are still going to see all the people that failed take their punishment.
Shit.
Yeah, Corey, go ahead.
Yeah.
Tony, can I give you an exam, but throw a couple curveballs at you, and can we see if you pass?
I'm not very good, but yeah, for sure. You can put me through the ringer.
Okay, so put both hands up with both fives up. Yeah. Close your eyes. I want you to do your left index finger to your right pinky. Okay, come back. I want you to do your right middle finger to your left thumb. Okay, come back. I want you to do your left ring finger to your right middle, or to your left middle finger.
Wait, my
Wait,
right.
sorry. Your right ring finger to your left middle finger. You're better at it than you lay on. Okay. Does anyone else want to give him one? I was just trying to mix up the hands.
Interesting, that whole like. It was funny because like soon as you started saying that, I really wanted to like give myself, like soon as you said right ring finger, I really wanted to wiggle it a little bit to get some awareness, to draw my attention, be like, okay, make sure I touch that one. Which was, but I thought that was cool. Nice. Any other comments, questions about this topic and what you guys have done to prepare yourself? Yeah, Conrad, what do you got?
Yeah, I just want to say, towards that lower level stuff, do you guys know what the #1 failed task on a ski level 3 is?
Yeah, Wedge Christie's.
Oh yeah, going back to like keeping it slow, like you can, oh my god, get so in depth with a Wedge Christie. It is ridiculous.
That's great. And it's amazing how often we rely on external forces to deal with things. And, you know, at the lower levels, you know, let's say like a level 1 Wedge Christie, people brace on the inside edge and just kind of stem it out there and kind of brace on it a little bit versus continuing that leg steering through. Anyways, we're getting all geeky and alpine talk. Sorry about that. But you understand my point. Hargrave knows what I mean. Anybody else? So with that, I'd like you guys to challenge those people at your exams that say that they can't prepare for their level 2 and level 3 exams at lower levels. Don't let them use that as an excuse just to go out and teach upper levels. Because to be honest, what I noticed when I was a supervisor at Copper and I was a supervisor of training and then a training manager, and I would go and shadow lessons and stuff, what I noticed is when people would be like, Tony, I need an upper level lesson so I can go and prepare for my level 3. But you know what happens? They go out with that upper level lesson and you know what they say all day? They say, follow me, follow me, follow me. Hey, let's go hit these jumps over here. Follow me. Hey, let's go hit these trees over here. Follow me. Or they stand on the side of the hill and they go, da, 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 and they talk to their blue in the face. So it's actually quite detrimental to what they're doing to prepare themselves for the exam. Where I feel like at the lower levels, we can learn quite a bit. But right on. So that's what I wanted to kind of leave you guys with. And again, you know, the reason for this is I thought this is just something that I recognize myself, you know, as people kind of come through exams and examining for years. It's when people have been successful and unsuccessful, and we start to find out how they've prepared themselves and what they've done in their preparation. And again, not only preparing themselves when they're training with a trainer at their home resort, but when they're teaching and when they're with themselves and stuff like that. So thanks for your time, guys. Thanks for hanging in there. And those of you guys with the ice, who is it?
I would just like to protest this because, and this happens at every exam, but you didn't define what passing criteria looked like or was. I touched the fucking fingertips, okay? I didn't miss. Okay? Yeah, I moved my left hand a little bit to reach for the fingers. I fucking nailed it, dude. I'm totally writing the home office. Fuck you.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
It's freaking cold, man.
Here we go.
Yep. Yeah, Mike. There it is. Lindsay already did. She bailed on us already. Oh, there it is. Oh, classic. Cool. Yeah, Corey. Classic. Right on. With that, I'll leave it to you, Chris. Thanks, bro.
I was trying to give my best example of what it looks like when somebody's angry that they didn't pass their exam. And clearly, I need to work on proprioception in terms of touching fingers above my head. Why the hell would anybody spend their life doing that? I don't get it.
I thought my proprioception was pretty good. I spent most of my life on a trampoline, so yeah.
But
And most of my
fingertips,
ice
not
was
so
just
much.
cold water. Now I'm like,
At least I'm in good company though, because Mike screwed up too, right? You failed, didn't you, Mike? So
I did, but I know how to grab my board, so that proprioception is on point.
Yeah,
but can
when
you grab your
when
board?
you think you're
with your
grabbing
eyes closed,
Indy, it might
Wells?
be Tindy, bro.
Who knows? Who knows?
That was awesome, Tony. Thank you, man. That was really cool. I was lost in thought. So every time you asked the question, I'm like, man, I want to share something, but I'm really just engaged in thinking about all of this. And I was also dreading the ice cube thing. So I could not focus on anything except for the fact that I had to pour ice down my shirt. I'm like, dang it.
But that's, I mean, and that's the realistic part of, like, you know, people go to exams, and sometimes when they go to exams, they instead of focusing on what they need to do to prepare and or pass it, they worry so much on, like, oh my God, what if I don't pass it? What if I don't? And they spend so much time, so much space in their head focusing on the what ifs. So it's a bit of,
actually, just through this one little simple example, I experienced that sensation of being less focused on what there was to learn in that opportunity and in your discussion, and more focused on the dread of what was coming with the ice cubes. I was actually drinking the water out of the cup to make sure I didn't have to pour water down my shirt too. All I was thinking about was tactics about the freaking ice in my shirt.
crafty veteran move there, bro. That was good.
You totally blew my game right there. Nice job. That was awesome.
What did you guys all think about the whole tucking in the shirt in the beginning, by the way? Did you think that was awkward?
Little awkward.
I wasn't in the room for that.
That I was confused as to why we were doing it.
I was just embarrassed that my shirt was already tucked in. Truth. Because you're not supposed to tuck shirts in. Cool guys don't do that. And on that note, I am not a cool guy. But I do have options for you. So what would you guys like to do? Would you like a continuation of the pipe discussion we were having? Because it seemed like there was some pretty good engagement there. Would you like me to go into a presentation on Big Snow American Dream? Or would you like me to talk about the languages of leadership in the snow sports industry?
Hargrave.
Yes, sir.
If we're doing pipe,
yes.
I just feel like the last one was pretty much an MA session.
It's very cerebral.
And there was no real takeaway with regards to what could I do at my resort with that information.
Right.
It was a good broad overview of what it looks like to be at that level, but we don't see that every day.
Yep.
And what are the key takeaways? So right at the end with the drop in, I had to ask the question as to who drops in like that, because it really gives you an audience as to who you're actually talking to. So if we do go down the pipe route, could we make
one
sure
takeaways?
Like,
I kind of figured as much. That discussion was very cerebral. It was more about laying the foundations of understanding edgework, pressure control, line, those kind of things. Not so much an approach or a progression to developing in any way, shape, or form other than just understanding some pretty high level stuff. So I totally agree, which is why I threw that out as an option, because it seemed like that there might be some interest in that. But you guys
I would be into the big snow thing, just because I've been into lots of indoor domes in China, but I'd love to see the difference and what you have as well. So I'd love to hear your difference between.
I can give you comparison. I've spent a lot of time in those domes. It's weird that they're called. They're weird that they're even called domes, because they're not domes. But anyways, so there it is. Which way are we going? How about this? You guys raise your hands. Half pipe. Raise hands now. 1, 2, 3.
We didn't see last week, so.
Okay, so 3 people. Big Snow American Dream. Raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. We're going. Looking like Big Snow American Dream's winning right now. And languages of leadership.
Krista, is yours for Big Snow?
4. Big Snow American Dream wins. There it is. Tony's stoked. He just fist pumped. That was awesome. Okay, so here's what I'd like to share with you guys about Big Snow American Dream. First of all, the history of this project goes back quite a little ways. So Snow Operating is a company that I helped start in really 2012. Prior to that, we were doing some consulting in 2011, and then we built a ski resort in Texas, which was really strange. But then we got into Snow Operating, and we started moving into train-based learning. And train-based learning was really for Joe Hessian, who's the sort of the mastermind behind all this, genius level business operator. I've learned a tremendous amount from him. And when you guys find someone like that in your life, I recommend very much that you pay close attention and keep them close to you. Because I've learned so much from that one individual about so many other people. It's kind of crazy. But anyways, moving into this, one of his dreams, my dream was always to take learning, training, train-based learning, all these concepts, and turn it into something very unique, very special, and have an impact on resorts, especially the lower 250 resorts in the US. I mean, there's 420 resorts in the US, and more than half of them have zero budget. They make no money. They struggle to survive year over year, and it's a miracle that they exist. Those resorts are the resorts that need attention and love, truly. They are the feeder resorts. They should be the primary focus. In fact, I look at those resorts as the crown jewel in my cap and my crown of experience, if you want to call it something like that. The feeder resorts are everything to this industry. The big resorts are critical. They play a very specific role, but they have so much momentum that the need at that level is very different. In fact, those resorts, I think, will survive regardless of what happens, for example, with coronavirus or any other major industry trend. Those resorts are set up to do quite well, which is, for those of you from Colorado, that's good news. Good news for big Colorado resorts, good news for big Utah resorts, good news for big California resorts, that kind of thing. The places that will be hurt the most by what we're experiencing right now, for example, are the small feeder resorts. And the Mid-Atlantic is a great example of that. So if you're familiar with the East Coast region, the Mid-Atlantic is really everything kind of New Jersey, Connecticut, New Jersey, and below, right? So all the resorts that head down south, even into what would be sort of southern, which would be like Snowshoe, or down into Tennessee, like Cataloochee, places like that. And those resorts are critical to the industry because they are near, all those Mid-Atlantic resorts are near massive population densities, okay? And these population densities have the greatest opportunity for growth in our industry, period. Now, growth in our industry doesn't look like more people going to Vail. Those people are funneled up, right? So if we look at the funnel in terms of a marketing perspective, at the top of the funnel, there's people that, above the funnel, really, out of the funnel, there are people who know nothing about skiing and snowboarding. They have no idea what it even looks like. There's no expectation. There's nothing. It just doesn't even exist until somebody goes, hey, you can do stuff on the snow. And once they hit that, they end up they start looking for places to go, like resorts, and they'll get directed. Maybe they're looking local for a local search. Maybe they have money and they're looking to Colorado, places like that. But once that funnel starts to happen, it's a funny thing happens. Ski resorts actually are terrible at websites, and they don't really build a very functional funnel that drives people to the point of purchase. It's really hard because most people, if you went to a ski resort's website, if you think about it, you'd have very little idea what a season pass is or what it means or what it does for you. If you were going to try skiing or snowboarding for the first time, it's so hard to navigate that piece of it that most people give up and they go bowling or they go see movies, they go do other things. This is why our industry grows at a very slow rate. This is why, thankfully, because of, I think, largely a lot of the efforts of folks like you, you've made a huge difference in the trending of the industry. Our numbers are actually pretty flat. That's a good sign. If you go back even 10 to 15 years, our numbers to date in 2020, people were expecting us to be around 40 million skier visits. Now, if you think about that, that's a crazy number. That means our industry shrinks dramatically. We're still hovering around 60 million skier visits, which is an incredible accomplishment for this industry. By all accounts, according to all the experts, and of course, every time you look at modeling with anything, it's almost always wrong. So, in this case, they were way off, which is that's a great thing that they were way off. Now, all that said, here's where Big Snow American Dream comes into play, right? The mission at that little facility is in the United States is to turn it into the top of the funnel. It's focused on the introductory, or what's called the trial experience currently in the industry. I mean, trial experience being sample, test, first experience, that kind of thing. And it's very, very focused on the concept of conversion. So taking, not so much retention. Retention is a focus, but the primary business model is based on the same mission that snow operating had with conversion, which, you know, Tony's done some work for snow operating, so he knows what that's all about in terms of snow operating, how we look at it. But in terms of the industry, conversion is just simply that point at which people become a skier or a snowboarder. If you want to think of it that way, there's been all kinds of different ways to measure it. In the past, it was once you marked type 2, if you checked the box, it was type 2 on a rental form, and so on and so forth, right? So I'm trying to give you guys kind of a little bit of history. And most of you probably are aware of this by now, I hope. But the conversion problem in the US really hasn't improved that much, maybe by 1%. If you go back even 5 years, we were at a 16%, 15 to 16% conversion rate. We're now around 17%, which is really a nice movement. But what that means is about 83 out of 100 people that try skiing and snowboarding will never, ever do it again. They won't just fail and then come back a few years later. They never come back. And so the industry right now, NSA is actually very motivated to figure out how to bring people back, people who tried it, and then figure out why they failed and figure out how to bring them back into snow sports culture. And that's where Big Snow American Dream, I think, fits a very important role. They literally, you know, at one single location, and it's a tiny postage stamp of terrain, which you guys will get to see here in just a couple minutes. They could do as much as 500,000 to 1 million new skiers and snowboarders each year. So in total, skiers, snowboarders, and snowgoers. Like snowgoes, have you guys all done the snowgo bikes? If you haven't, they're ridiculously fun and stupidly easy. But so their mission there is to at Big Snow is not so much to create a terrain park or to appease high-level skiing and skiers and snowboarders. It's to give a trial experience. And they're doing it, I mean, in ways that I don't think I've ever seen. So what I was going to do for you guys, if you'll bear with me, is share some video footage and some images of what it looks like. And then as we go through, even right now, go ahead and unmute your microphones and please just bark and ask a question. I am so over the webinar style presentation of Zoom. I don't like sitting in silence. If you want to be heard, then speak up and be heard, and I will listen and respond. Fair enough? So unmute yourselves.
Fair enough. Sounds good.
Cool.
Hey, Chris, when you're done, if I can bring something up later, A Basin is doing something for skier retention that I'd love to discuss with you.
Sure, totally, man. I would love to hear about it. I'm going to get this ready, and then I'll share my screen here. Big Snow. Created a whole photo file for you guys. So you'll see whatever's on my desktop. Don't be.
Well, I don't want to see all your photos, Chris.
You're going to see them all, and that's good for better or worse. Okay, so you guys can probably see this. I'm going to work my way through just a little bit of what's going on. We'll see what we got. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
And you can see that dent in my car. That's weird. I guess you didn't need that one. All right, so this is Big Snow about 2 days before opening. So we opened the beginning of December, December 5th, I want to say. And I arrived the beginning of that week to an absolute disaster. The place wasn't ready. It didn't even have full snow coverage. I tried to take some random videos of different things. I'm going to turn the volume down. At this point in time, that little snowcat, by the way, had to be helicoptered in. There was no way to drive the snowcat in, so they actually choppered it in and landed it on this one little tiny pad just outside the maintenance bay. Here we have the crew of park crew guys, and I love park crew guys, and the guy who runs the park crew there is my friend. But you can see that park crew, by the way, they raked that park for an entire day straight just because they didn't want to do any other work, I think. So it was like everybody's in this mad dash to do things. This facility, just to give you guys perspective, can you see my cursor right now?
Yeah.
When I move it around. Okay, so right here, this is the beginner zone that you're seeing on this side of that side of the towers. Okay, that beginner zone is about 450 feet top to bottom. So from this wall down to this wall, and it's on almost a perfect slope. It's like 9 degrees ish. We built full bank turns that took up the whole space. There's 2 magic carpets right there. The base area there, you know, you'll see it gets a little more finished, but it's meant to look a little bit like a village, that kind of thing. And up on this wall, you can see some windows here. This is the actual retail shop right here. Inside these doors down here would be the rental shop, which you'll see shortly. What you're seeing here, those aren't icicles, those are actually snow sickles. And they form because of the way things happen in a snow dome. They form better here than they do in China, because China's, I mean, at least temperature wise, it's and the air quality has a big impact on things in China. So just to give you a comparison of snow domes in other places, heat has a big impact on the one in Dubai. The guy who actually is the general manager of this facility, he worked at the one in Dubai and one in Spain prior to coming here. So he's got some pretty tremendous experience. Through the floor of this, there's actually glycol tubes that are just running coolant underneath the snow at, you know, the entire time. So it's highly temperature controlled. During operation, it runs at about 28 degrees. When they make snow, it runs at about 22 degrees. So there you go. So as we go through, feel free to ask questions. We had to hang pads like just randomly. So there was just it was a big mission on all fronts. The mall itself, American Dream is the mall. It's a massive mall that's been under construction for like 20 years. There are people who are just seeing this mall open, and they were children when it started, and they're freaking out going, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's opening. But it took 20 years just because of all the things. There's Joe Hession. He's that guy. If you ever get to make friends with anybody who's in the business of the snow sports industry, just make friends with him. He's probably your best choice. One of the most dynamic individuals in the industry. He operates now, because snow operating, you know, we started as a train-based learning consultant company. Then he started, he wanted to operate ski resorts. So now he operates Mountain Creek. He operates the Big Snow American Dream. He's working on another one that I think I can talk about, but probably shouldn't talk about. It's another one in the East. And his mission is to build a resort operations company. There's Jeff Baliba, who came down for the intro. If any of you guys are Burton fans, Jeff runs he's the VP of you know, global resort development, that kind of thing. So he runs all the LTR stuff, that kind of thing. There's the base of the lift. That is a fixed grip quad with no towers. The towers are actually mounted to the ceiling. Is this okay? Is this walkthrough okay? Is this help? Is it good to see this? Yeah? Okay, good. If any of this stuff just looks... Sorry, I was nerding out there. Inside, you can see the flock trees. They were bringing those in. There's Eric Lipton. He's a member of the PSI national team. He and I worked together. And we had this sort of commando style training session where we had to work with what we had. The whole place was a mess. And we're training instructors in this room right now. He and I are training instructors who have never taught. They've never even thought about teaching. They don't spend their life at resorts. In some cases, they could barely snowboard or ski, if at all. And they were becoming what are called snow ambassadors. So there aren't ski and snowboard instructors at Big Snow American Dream. There are snow ambassadors. And they literally can do any job in that facility, from rental shop to greeting to whatever. But some of them are more focused on teaching or giving that on snow experience, which makes it really, really interesting. That's the crew of those instructors. It's so weird there, because I hated wearing goggles, so I was wearing rental stuff because they lost my bag, and so then they had to ship everything out late. But that crew, they've never taught snowboarding before, never even thought about it, and they're super excited, and they're about to open. They're a couple days away from opening, 48 hours from opening. This is big. He is the mascot for Big Snow. And they do all kinds of different things with that mascot getting into it. So trying to frame it up. That's how far you are. So that's literally right outside the facility. You can see the skyline of Manhattan. You're a stone's throw away from New York. Go ahead, Corey.
Sorry. How did, what kind of background do they have that you're like, I'm gonna pick this person that's gonna be a jack of all trades, master of none, but
I asked that question too. I literally, because I got to, as just I guess as a founder of snow operating, I got to have a little bit more influence than probably most people ever would over something like this, but I'm not in the day-to-day operations of it. So first they hired their top level team. That top level team put it out there, and they literally hired people. And here's the crazy thing. They immediately started all of their employees at the new minimum wage in New Jersey, which is $15 an hour. They gave them paid time off and sick pay and sick leave. So they had vacation pay, even if they were hourly. And these people came from everywhere. They were not who you would expect to become an instructor. They just weren't. They put a competitive program out. This is what's interesting about this. And go ahead, Tony.
Oh, no, sorry. Go ahead. Finish what you're saying.
Oh, I was just going to say, they put a really competitive work opportunity out there, and then people showed up. And they didn't really put a limitation on who they hired. In fact, the worst hires that I've seen out there, and don't take this the wrong way, were fully certified or level 2 certified instructors, because we can't get our heads around the war zone that this place is. And we're going to get to that. I think I've got some images in here to share with you guys so you can see a little bit of what it looks like. Tony, what was your comment or question?
I was just going to say, what's the temperature inside the dome?
28 when they operate and 22 when they make snow.
And do they make snow like in the evenings or like a couple times a week or?
Post operation every day. And it's a small amount each day, but they dust it. And one of the cool things, and you've probably noticed this at like the snow domes in China, but in China, the snow can actually, they have a real problem with at least at the 2 facilities I've been to, they have a real problem with getting the surface snow temperature right. So it'll sometimes it's sugar, sometimes it'll pack out like solid ice. This place remains packed powder from 10 a.m. in the morning till 10 p.m. at night when they close. It's incredible. The snow conditions are epic. They're a little slow. It's like sticky, which I'm sure you're familiar with. If you've been to an indoor ski facility, they're all a little slow. The friction coefficient's a little higher just because of the way that snow runs and doesn't necessarily pack. But the experience is awesome because no matter where you fall, it's kind of like being padded. It's not like corn, but it's somewhere in between packed and corn. Does that make sense?
Like the ones I've been in like 4 different ones in China.
Yeah.
It seems like, in the beginning of the day you can carve on it, and the end of the day it's just sand and.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. This place stayed the same all day. Never turned to sand. To that perspective, it never turns to sand. They have a really good, consistent system, and it's the glycol pipe that they run through the base. It's under the snow. You can't see it. That actually is critical. And then the air circulation is really critical. And in China, they have a real problem with the air because the air quality outside is so bad. They're always fighting with air quality, and the pollutants actually make it really hard for them to manage the snow there. It's pretty interesting. So anyways, there's Manhattan right there, just across the way. This is, you're going to see a few photos in here. Sorry, there'll be like bad selfies. Here's a video. Turn volume down. But this is what it looks like when you walk in, right? So I'm in the retail space right now, and you're going to see it's kind of a disaster. There's boxes everywhere. This video was the day before we opened. So nothing's on the walls. The racks aren't out. The snow surface hasn't been prepared. The pads aren't on the walls. It was insane. The last 24 hours of prep for this place was a full court press. So there's the main retail area. You walk into that ski chandelier there. Ski clothes on the right, snowboard, the whole snowboard shop's to the left. It's a Burton. You can kind of see it back against the wall. There'll be photos of that later. Through here, you walk over. These are the windows you can view from. If you don't pay, for example, to go in. That's what the facility kind of looks like going outside through the windows. So there's the beginner area on the left. There's the park over there on the right, the main run. The run's like maybe 800 feet long, just to give you an estimate. It's not super long. It's a pretty short experience overall. That little snowcat, that thing runs on, it's a highly efficient diesel and it runs with a special kind of mixture that actually doesn't put out pollutants, 0 pollutants in there. This, what you're seeing right here, is a mini pipe. And I know it's really hard to see the contours, but the learning feature that we use in snow operating is a mini pipe. It's built, if you're not familiar with our TBL program, it's just built in dead flat zone with 2 banks that face each other so that people can have a short slope to a flat run out and be contained so they can learn all kinds of things. And it's really important, especially in this facility, because people are going to come through this facility literally on an average day, during peak time average day, there'll be a new human being walking through the doors to start a lesson every 60 seconds, at least. It's crazy. So you'll literally just have people wandering out to get involved, and it's a wild thing. That's Pat Hessian.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to jump in. Like when you're saying someone going every like 60 seconds, what's the pay scale for that? What's the price point? How are they managing that?
So it's actually really cheap. It's $49 with everything included. So you get a 2-hour session that includes a lesson, rentals, and lift access. If you want lift only, or with no rentals, the lessons are always free for anybody of any ability. But if you want the lift without the rentals, it's $29 for 2 hours. So it's really affordable. If you think about it, if you've never done it before, for $49, you can walk in and get a sliding experience on skis or a snowboard.
Did you stay in the city or did you stay in East Rutherford?
Say that again?
Did you stay in the city or in East Rutherford when you were there?
So I stayed in, I think it's Clifton or near there. It's just, I'm staying at a Marriott that's right next to the medieval times, only a couple miles away from the mall. Right next to the mall, there's a Hilton that you can stay at, which is actually really affordable. They're full, and our company has a deal with Marriott. But the Hilton, actually, you can walk to the mall from the Hilton. It's a bit of a walk, but there's lodging very close. You could stay in the city. There's at that, just to put it in perspective, at that mall, and I think there's some photos coming up. The New York Giants play there. There's a huge sports complex there. The Jets and Giants play there, and then they have a concert venue, and then the mall itself is monstrous. It has a water park that is bigger than the ski resort by far. It's twice the size of the ski resort in total space, and it's a Pixar themed water park. So it's very, very cool. And then they have a full indoor Nickelodeon amusement park inside that's about twice the size, maybe 1.5 times the size of the ski area. And that one's Nickelodeon themed with roller coasters and all that sort of stuff.
Can I rent out the whole ski area? Like, let's say I was just gonna have like a massive party, and I'm like, I want the ski area.
You can, yeah. So to do it, and we actually did it once while I was there, because a really wealthy individual came in and wanted the whole place, and they were tied to the owner. They were just had tons of money, and basically they just have to estimate and pay for the business loss. So that's kind of how they're running it, and it's actually relatively affordable, I guess, if you're speaking in relative terms, but it's not something, it's kind of money I would never see. But you can do parties there as well, and you get special space. One thing that, for example, that did happen is like, are you guys, anybody hip hop music fans? So anybody know who A Boogie is? Like A Boogie with a hoodie? Okay, so he's pretty famous hip hop artist from New York. He's known worldwide. He came in with like 30 of his buddies, and then we kept the place open for an extra hour for him so they could do their thing, which I've got some videos. It's kind of, but I mean, that kind of thing is happening. The first time I ever taught on snow-go bikes was at this facility, and it was Whoopi Goldberg's family, her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend, and then some friends and another family member. They all came in to learn how to snowboard and ride snow-go bikes. And this happened like literally the second day we were open. And so I go out there and taught my first snow-go lesson, which was wild because, and this is lesson learned. We started on the snow-go bikes. They tried it in the little TBL area, and then they went on to ask me to go get snowboards. So I go back inside the little rental shop area to get snowboards. I walk back out, and they're all on the chairlift with their snow-go bikes cruising to the top, and they had not been. It's 23-degree slope at the top, so not too scary, but pretty gnarly if you've never done anything. and they proceed to point straight down the hill on these snow go bikes at full speed. It was terrifying. I'm like, oh, that's the end of this one. There's the one big moment in my career where I totally blow it. But everybody, it worked out. Everybody was okay. But still, that's kind of how, and that's getting to the cultural piece, being this close to the city. It's worthy of discussion, and I wanted to share this with you guys. But the approach to skiing and snowboarding is like nothing you've probably really ever experienced at a resort. And imagine if everybody that came to the resort piled in with their equipment, walked out to the lesson area, and then just started doing whatever they wanted the entire time. And you can't control it because the flow is really high. And you also, you know, you're under direction to allow the guests to experience things the way they want to. And imagine what that would look like at your ski resort, and then triple the volume of your ski resort by at least triple the volume.
My anxiety just went up and I started sweating by you saying that.
And think about this, most places that I go to, like, I'll bet, okay, so raise your hand, you know, by consensus, if you think your beginner area is not big enough. If you think you need more beginner terrain. Pretty much everywhere I go, everybody raises their hand. They're like, yeah, it's not big enough. This place has a 400-ish foot by 140 foot, it might be 140, about 140 foot wide beginner postage stamp. That's all the beginner training there is. And the majority of people coming in are beginners. By far, the dominant number of people coming in are beginners. Okay, so I'll just keep letting videos play.
What is the capacity?
What is the capacity? I think we can have 600 in the snow facility at any given time. So we kind of have a bubble that we have to push, but we're trying not to. We've set our capacity lower than that to manage the experience. Another little video. Here it is put together. This is just before opening. So we were up all night, literally all night, you know, building this place out. If you can imagine, like, if you've ever been a part of a project like that where you just go for it, that's what happened here. Jeff Believa and the whole Burton team from the Mid-Atlantic came in, and they were building out the Burton zone and I'll show you detailed photos. It's beautiful. You can kind of see it back in the back of that video there. There's my s'mores hot cocoa. I was finally starting to relax because this is like a panic mess. And Jake Burton's family was showing up. This is a month after Jake passed. And, you know, we had, you know, several pros showing up, skiers and snowboarders. The governor of the state of New Jersey was there. Governor of New York, you know, popped in for a second. Some of the wealthiest people in New York were around. It was a highly, this was a very sensationalized thing, and very, you know, in terms of just overall pressure and operation, I'm surprised anybody was smiling through it, but everybody's trying and they did pretty good. This is a really cool thing. I want to walk you guys through this. Okay. Turn the volume down. So when you walk in, right, you'd go to retail, and then you go back from retail. Sorry. And I know it's a little confusing. Okay. So right here, this zone that you're seeing right back there is where people check in, kind of to the left. To the right, there is, I'll probably show it later, but those are the check-in stations, and they use a system called iCloud, which is really cool. It's not like what you'd experience at any resort. It literally at Mountain Creek has eliminated the ticket lines, which is crazy. So back this way, where you can see my cursor right back here, that takes you to the gondolas. So there's a fully themed experience where you walk into a line, they let you into a gondola about every 30 seconds, alternating the 3 gondolas. You go into the gondola cabin, you watch a 60-second video talking to you, you know, walking you through your rental experience and then what you're going to do on snow. And so those gondolas are used to pace how people flow into the rental zone. And people can't just walk straight to the slopes. They have to go through this process to help temper the crowds a little bit, right? So there's your registration. You can see everybody is, that's kind of the back, that's the sort of back hallway from the rental shop. We'll walk in. Sorry, you guys are getting this thing right here, that I don't know if you guys could see that. So Burton did this whole thing, which is really cool. They made a whole archway of Burton like snowboard laminates. And then this whole thing is like if you can imagine, it's just like an arch all the way around through the entry. So it's very committed to snowboarding. It's a full Burton facility on all fronts. Those are the gondolas that you walk into, right? You go through that experience, and then there'll be more. Red Gerard came out for the opening. It was a pretty big deal. It was really cool. So I've known Red since he was a little guy. I got to get, and this I'm just going to brag a little bit. I got to get second chair right behind Jake Burton's family, so right behind Donna, and you know their oldest son George. I taught how to do hand plants years ago, so I always tell these stories about hand plants. The hand plant, for me has been like this sort of signature handshake thing in snowboarding that has carried so far. And like even when George showed up at this, we're still instantly buddies again. You don't need to see all this stuff. There's the big deal with all the elites. Here's these are all of the Olympic athletes right here on the first chair. Second chair, I take it back, I was third chair. Second chair is Donna and Jake's boys. And then third chair was me and Jeff Believer, which I thought was really cool. I was all psyched on that. I think I videoed it. There's Jake's family. Jeff and I get on the chair. There's Believes. If you guys have ever questioned, like, you know, the commitment of a company to snowboarding, Burton Snowboards, they've had their hands in everything, and they commit a lot of resources. And I don't mean to just sell them on you, because there's other great snowboard companies out there, but it's really impressive how much time and energy they put into the industry. There's the governors and the super wealthy guy who owns the mall.
They're not balancing the chair very well.
No, they weren't balancing the chair very well. There's Kelly Clark, the whole thing. It was a big celebration. Santa Claus showed up. So anyways, that's George Carpenter. There's Donna. Let's see. This is the whole, look at that wall that they did for Burton. So they did a whole timeline with photos, and they just did this very artistic rendition of the Burton shop. So they carry a full run of Burton product there. It's pretty cool. This is the boot bridge. So when you come out of those gondolas, you go to a station where you get your ski pants and your ski coat. So your snowboard pants and snowboard coat. Then you go to this boot bridge, you walk up these stairs and across, they fit you, which, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen boot bridges before. Pretty cool process. And then their equipment, once they get their boots and they get fitted, they walk outside and their equipment actually is waiting for them out on the snow. So they don't have to carry their equipment through any of the doors to get a process, to get through that process. It's pretty cool.
I've never seen a boot bridge.
Oh, you haven't? I mean,
it's a bridge and someone is like right at your foot. Is that?
Yeah. So if you're the guest, you walk up there and stand at the railing, lift your foot up, and they put the boot on your foot and they size it for you right there. You don't have to do any of the work. And then once you get your boots, you know, they show you how to lace them up right there. Then you walk off with your boots, go put your shoes in a locker, and you're ready to go. It's really simple. It's a really cool process that many resorts are moving to, at least those who are efficient, who are focused on efficiency in the beginner experience. And let me bring it back to that beginner experience. So this resort is completely focused on ease of entry for beginners, which is why the price is $49. They could easily charge $100 in that region and nobody would bat an eye. It's $49 so that people will experience skiing and snowboarding. And then what Snow Operating is doing, of course, is they're partnering with all the local regional resorts and then working to partner even with Aspen. There's discussion, at least there was on the table. I'm not sure. I'm sure things have stagnated right now, but there's even an Aspen room where at certain times of the year, you would be able to get a private elite lesson with an instructor who was trained at or is from Aspen because of that brand awareness and connection. I know it sounds funny when you think about it, but it's very real. What were you saying, Conrad?
I was like, yeah, whatever, man, picking on Aspen.
I love it, and I love the logic behind it. And Aspen, by the way, has been a snow operating partner resort for many years. So in some levels, of course, Aspen does everything their own way, no matter what. So, and there's so much expertise and knowledge there that it's one of those things where it's just great to have that partnership. Just like Whistler. Whistler is one of our partners, and Vail will, sort of changes things for us, but because Vail likes to do everything internal. But in any event, that's the mission and layout. There's the archway. There's the gondola cabins. Here's this is probably a lesson experience. Let me see what I got here. Oh, this is me giving notes. Sorry. So you guys can kind of get a walkthrough on the bank turns through this. I'll advance it a little bit. Kind of get a top-down view of TBL bank turns right there. Those are my favorite gloves. I lost them this season. I'm really bummed about that because I love those Burton AK leathers. Now all I have are black ones. I'm so unfortunate. But the way this is designed, and here's the other thing, the pitch and the way we designed it, people literally don't have to have hands-on support because the speed is meant to be measured by the shape of the terrain, so that as people flow in, they can naturally progress at whatever pace they want. If you get someone who doesn't want to go through a long lesson experience, they could literally walk right up to the magic carpet, go up, buckle in, and slide down, and have a pretty good experience, pretty stable experience. How many of you are familiar with Snow Operating's TBL experience? Because it might be, and let me know if it would be cool for you guys to hear a little bit about how that process works. Yes, no?
I know about it.
Pretty familiar with it.
Okay. So we start in the flats, we move to a mini pipe, then we move on to rollers and or bank turns. Everything is designed to be a contained learning environment so that the fear melts away and people can focus on just moving and managing things. Let's see. Okay, this is fun. So this group right here, this is a full group, I think. I'm going to advance a little bit. Yeah. So this is A Boogie. This is a whole group of hip hop artists and friends and bodyguards that came in. And when they started their lesson, I was there and talking with them. I'm going, hey, do you guys want to learn how to do this, or do you guys just want to try it? And they're like, we just want to try it. I'm like, you're sure you don't want to learn how to stop? They're like, just tell us how to stop. So just tell us how you do it. And literally that concept of just tell us how, and I'm gonna go try it. That is how everyone approaches learning to ski and snowboard. Almost everyone, the majority of people that walk through the doors, they come out on the slopes and they, instead of wanting a full lesson experience, they just want a quick sample, a quick experience, and then they want to go try. They literally want to go up the chairlift. The instructors have had to figure out how to wrangle people from the chair back to the carpet zone, because people are just, jamming right up there and flowing through. And there's such a high volume, it's very difficult to manage. And so what's happening to their learning experience is they're developing progressions that are unlike what we would normally see or experience. And that's where it gets I think it gets really pretty interesting. I'll let this one play out. I think this is probably A Boogie getting ready to do a jump. Yeah, he wants to. This is down in the flats. This is where they actually stuck around for a little bit. Here I think he's about to go try and jump off the bank turn. So his mission is to jump off the bank turns. That's all he wanted to do. He didn't care about stopping. He didn't care about turning. He's a 27-year-old guy, 23 to 27-year-old guy. And all he wants to do, and all of his buddies too, this is all they wanted to do, is go straight down and try to jump over the bank turns, because they had already taken the fences down and that kind of thing. The approach to skiing and snowboarding is very different. There's one of the snow ambassadors there in the blue jacket. His name's Cyrus, and he was so stoked to meet his hip hop, icon. He's actually a level 2 instructor out of Colorado. I think he trained at Keystone, I want to say. But he's there and he's looking at this going, what do I do? It's actually a struggle. He's had to completely rethink how he approaches learning, because by and large, the people coming into the resort are African American. And that's very unique in our industry. So I've never seen a concentration of this magnitude of middle America white people showing up at a ski resort with some kind of knowledge about skiing and snowboarding before they experience it. And what's happening here is the whole staff is learning how to build lessons around the experience that the customer wants. So rather than forcing the customer into a process that we know works, right? The classic, any kind of a classic learning experience from any progression at any ski resort across the US, they are developing their very own progression, which I think is pretty unique. Let's see. Okay. So here's where we're at. If you guys are cool with it, I figured I would walk you through some of my notes and we can open it up to discussion. But when you get into this whole world of beginners, we start to look at the industry through a very different perspective. So our company, and even myself just as an instructor, I see the ski industry so different than I did before we started this process. Because in the beginning at the Burton Snowboard Academy, I got to launch a train-based learning program on a major scale. It was the first one in the US of any kind where there was a fully committed zone, and it was totally manicured and prepared to control speed, to control experience. There were all kinds of features across the US, but this was like a package, right? A whole experience. And then a private building, a private space, all these different things. Highly trained instructors, like 80 worked there for a few years. And there was just this incredible team of human beings that really poured their hearts into the snowboard industry in that little space. And it really was a snowboard experience for snowboarders. The train-based learning complemented that. That has now morphed into, and when I started working with snow operating, we started to focus on this conversion concept. And I think this is where I think it's most important. Is understanding the metrics of what we're actually dealing with. So do most of you work at large resorts in the ski business? Most of you, anybody work at a feeder resort? Tyson, where do you work?
A-Basin.
A-Basin, so semi, so you're mid-level resort, yeah. but small compared to your competition. Oh, yeah. Your local competition, you're definitely small, but you're bigger, you're big on some levels, terrain-wise and that kind of thing.
I worked at Ski Sundown my first year.
That's a feeder resort. And tell me about that. What was your demographic? Where did people come from?
Just kind of local. There are lots of kids from high school and middle school who come after school. Right. Lessons were like an hour and a half, and they needed to be able to turn by the end of the lesson and ride a chairlift by the end of one lesson.
Right.
It was a lot different.
Very different, right? Jamie, go ahead. You're muted.
When I first started teaching, I worked for 7 years in Southern Utah at Bryan Head.
Okay. I love Bryan Head. That's a great resort.
Yeah, and we would get most of our people would drive up from Las Vegas on the weekend or if they had a day off.
Right. It was you either drive to Bryan Head or you drive up to Lee Canyon, right? Which Bryan Head's a way better resort, much bigger resort.
Oh yeah, and the snow is so much better. It's so good.
If you've never been to Bryan Head, that's definitely a destination you should put on your list. It's like a fun spot. Okay, so has anyone in this group ever worked at a feeder resort near a major population density, like Mid-Atlantic, like New York, work anywhere near there, or maybe Seattle, like Snoqualmie Pass has a massive density. LA, if you've worked in any of the resorts in Southern California, Big Bear, Mountain High, those places have massive, they do big numbers. Anybody familiar with that kind of operation?
The closest one I'm familiar with is I worked at Turo, which is like a mid-sized resort on Mount Ruapehu, which is close-ish to Auckland.
Okay.
Well, Remarks would be near a major city.
That'd be that's near, Remarks is near Queenstown. Is that right?
That's a major destination there. Yeah,
it is. So it's a bigger resort. So here's where Big Snow kind of fits in. In Manhattan, see in that surrounding area, there's 22 million people. So within now approximately a 20-minute drive from any direction, there's about 22 million people that will hit that facility. The closest resorts in those areas are like Mountain Creek, Camelback. These are places that are about 40 minutes from Manhattan. And so you can see those population densities are massive. Seattle's a good example. So Snoqualmie Pass is 40 minutes from downtown Seattle. There's about 5 million people in that area, 5 to 7 million people in that area. They get hit really hard. And when I say hit really hard, I just try to imagine. So if you work at Vail, on a big day, Vail will probably do 1,000 or so lessons, maybe 2,000 lessons, somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 total customers in their ski school programs. And they'll do that spread out across private lessons and, group lessons and the like. On a Saturday at, say, Mountain Creek, they'll do 2,000 beginners. 2,000 beginners on a tiny little postage stamp. So Big Snow is set up to do similar numbers there, probably as many as 2,000 to 5,000 people a day rolling through that in 2-hour segments. And what's really interesting about that and kind of remarkable is that what's happening is that inner city people that would never experience skiing or snowboarding otherwise are now stepping outside or stepping inside to go try it out for the first time. And the approach is much more like sledding or tubing. There's a lot of ego. It's a very unique thing. And what they've come up with now at Big Snow, and it's really interesting. Imagine if your beginner lesson was condensed into about 60 seconds of introduction, 5 minutes of quick tips on how to put the equipment on, and how to stop the board in that mini pipe zone and maybe skate a little bit. You can get maybe 5 minutes. And then people literally just go straight up the magic carpet and start snowboarding and skiing. It is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And what they have to do each day is they now have 3 different levels of progression. They have their black day progression, their blue, and their green. And black is when it's a total cluster. Blue is medium, and their green is when there's nobody there. When it's green, they can actually give a real lesson, and they get to put more time into what people learn and how they learn it, as long as people are willing and interested, which by and large, a lot of people aren't. And it's not because of the quality of the lesson, it's just because the way they're approaching it. This is a novelty, very different than showing up at a ski resort and not wanting to die. This is more like they literally want to throw themselves in front of a bus and see what happens. And it's really interesting. And then their overall process, they have been so swamped that they barely have a progression to go from the beginner zone to their upper slope, simply because it's a constant flow of new skiers and snowboarders. It's really unique. So imagine in the next 1 to 3 years, they'll do somewhere between 1 and 2 million people through that facility, introducing them to skiing and snowboarding. To put that in perspective, there are only estimated to be about 30 million skiers and snowboarders currently in the US. So ish, that's a rough estimate. So the impact on the industry is quite large. It's as much as, 0.5% it's as much as, what is that? Probably 5 to 10% in terms of potential growth and impact over the course of a few years here. And it's a really unique thing. So now the mission is, how does that play into feeding people, up the ladder to destination resorts? Because return business to Big Snow is going to be kind of a unique thing. Okay.
What's the discipline mix there?
So it's been really strange. It's about 50-50 though, from what I've seen. And by the way, this is wide open to questions now. So you guys can ask anything you want. If you want to see more photos, anything else, I'll share it with you. Fair enough?
Chris,
I'm going to stop the share.
Is there a crash pad at the bottom of like the big slope?
That's a great question. So I don't know if I have a photo of it, but what they did is at the funnel where the park and everything comes together, it's separated by a fence, park to main run. And then they built this thing that they called the triangle of, I think they called it the triangle of death. And I made them change the name of that when I went out for my second visit, because I go out once a month and the stuff they come up with, because, literally most of the guys that work there aren't super experienced in ski resort operations. They're actually pretty, because think about it, like if I said to you, hey, there's a great teaching job at Big Snow American Dream, do you want to go work inside the mall all winter, or are you going to say no and stay with your big Colorado resort? And I think probably as a rider, that part of you wants to stay in the mountains. So it's a different mix of human beings. But they built that wedge of death or triangle of death, and it was basically about 100 feet up, 150 feet up from where the run totally flattened out and ended. they built all these weird baffles and funneling things, and then this big triangle thing that was meant to catch people, because people would just point from the top and then hit the fence at the bottom. And that's literally what they thought the experience was meant to be. It was shocking. I mean, when I went there from grand opening with all these big visions about how we're going to do things right, to about a month and a week later to the triangle of death, like I was like, holy shit, this is a wild thing. And they've since changed it, of course, and they've baffled up higher. They've created, a chicane up higher that causes people to slow down at different points based on recommendations. But what an interesting process, and to watch the organic development is pretty cool.
I had another question. It was what do you have, like a targeted conversion rate, or do you have like some like estimate of how many people you want to translate into lifelong skiers / riders?
So it's funny because there's the blue sky rate, which is very, very high. There's the reality. So the mission, so they're just getting to a point now where they're going to be able to measure who transfers through, because there's partially because of the partnerships that they're building, but they're trying to measure it by who goes from big snow to another resort. And the goal is higher than their target was very high. I think they're probably sitting around 25% right now, but I'd have to check what their internal marks are. And to be honest, for the first 2 months of operation, and really the place only operated from December 5th until until everybody went on lockdown because of COVID. So I mean,
25% is pretty good.
Yeah. So, and that's the mission. That's the goal. The actual data in terms of, and how to track it through that facility. They're actually getting into some really cool things with technology in terms of collecting customers' data, survey, and the interactivity, which other resorts don't really have the ability to do. And they're learning a lot really fast. So when I have more data, of course, I'll share it with you guys, but I think it's kind of it's just an interesting petri dish to see, because the places in China are more traditional. They're more like just an indoor ski resort. You're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go skiing inside. This facility is specifically focused on creating new skiers and snowboarders, and they are doing that massively. So school groups will be the next big push. And if you can imagine that area with a population density of 22 million people, how many schools there are in that region, they will be constantly flooded with 2-hour school groups, throughout the week, as soon as that can happen. I mean, they were planning for next season, targeting for next season with that anyways. Hopefully they're on track to do that with the way things reopen. But it'll be really interesting to see how that impacts our industry. I was thinking in terms of athletes too. They're going to discover talent that would never be discovered otherwise. Yeah, so it's just the most random thing. And the kids that are working there, it's incredible too. It's really wild to see. A lot of them came from like retail. They worked at a Gap or something like that. And now they're working in the rental shop and out on the snow, and they're all learning how to snowboard, and they're thrilled. It's this very strange, totally disconnected, from our industry kind of experience, but pretty powerful one at that.
I did have another question. I don't want to cut anybody else off because I know I've asked a couple already. Did other people have questions? No? Okay. I'm really interested in the ticket process. And you said they've just completely eliminated like lines for buying tickets and all of that. And I think that's super cool. And I think that's things that resorts like need to get behind. And how have they done that? And like, what do they use?
So they're using cloud. Yeah, they're using a system called SnowCloud. You guys can look it up. We built it. Snow Operating built it, and we built it to eliminate lines at these high volume resorts. And so a lot of things are happening. So I'll give you a few things. One, imagine lessons on demand instead of lessons at lineups. So that's a big piece of it, right? So with SnowCloud, everything has to be on demand. And that's one of the missions. It doesn't have to be, but that's the way it's initially designed. So in terms of, the product you're selling for lift tickets and everything else, it just needs to flow with the customer. The customer arrives, then you service the customer. That's the mission. At Mountain Creek, what it does is now everything is done from tablets or directly from your phone. So you can just literally load it up and go. And then the way the wristbands work at Big Snow is of course they're all just they're preloaded, and it's all digital data. And so they're RF scanned. So every time you use it, there's a timeline. Once you start a 2-hour window, it just like it activates, and then after 2 hours, it'll stop rescanning, and then you'd have to go in and re-up and extend or end your experience. That's effectively how it's working. And in terms of like the ski resort with the RF systems that are available, you don't need to print tickets necessarily. You get one time, and then you go through that process, and it's all scannable. I think the mission is to go even away from tickets eventually to where, your cell phone with an app could be your lift ticket, and effectively eliminate that process altogether. So the change of hands, especially right now, the ability to not have to go and exchange anything at a window probably will be pretty valuable.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, no, that's really cool. It's yeah, I don't know. It seems like the resort model, like in that respect, is pretty archaic. And it's cool that you guys are going that way, because well, you kind of have to, because it has to be so instantaneous. But like, yeah, that's pretty sweet. I like that.
It has to be more like an amusement park for big snow, and so that means high volume, high throughput, and really effective. And I think they're achieving that. Plus, all the other amusement facilities in that mall use SnowCloud as well, so they're all in the same system, which is pretty cool. So when you go there, you could literally, purchase your experience for Big Snow and Nickelodeon amusement park and the water park. And I mean, imagine doing a camp there. I get all excited thinking about doing a camp there. Well, what we will eventually do is we'll host even like a micro airbag camp. So learn how to do your first jump and backflip kind of camp. And I think I showed you guys video of a micro bag that I designed in China. We'll probably put one of those in there off and on temporarily and do specialty programs like that. And then of course they'll end up with long-term and multi-week and all kinds of different things going on as they figure out how to fit it all in. I mean, in fact, they didn't even plan to have a terrain park, but the local customer, demanded it. They really wanted it. So they kept it alive. We built a terrain park for Red Gerard and Kelly Clark to come and play on for the grand opening, just to get some promo footage. But then we kept it going because people were so stoked on it. And it's still a thing, but realistically, even that 23-degree slope is meant to have switchback bank turns on it so that beginners can have a top to bottom experience at low speed. And when you build snow effectively, when you do it right, you can keep people moving at whatever speed you want. You can literally set the pitch to 5 miles an hour, and creates this really incredible experience. Imagine having a playground where you can totally control every aspect of what you're doing in terms of the overall experience. That's kind of what this is and is becoming.
How many instructors do you guys have at any point in time?
So peak times, there will be probably around 30 snow ambassadors, and they're probably understaffed, but it's just, they're still figuring out those staffing levels. I mean, literally for the first 3 months of operations, it was constant phone calls and questions about, hey, how many should we staff? What should we do? There's a lot of compromise too, in terms of like the integrity of the experience. Cause I want people to experience things how they want it, but I also want them to learn safely and be able to keep themselves safe and connect with the sport long-term. But you just learn that you have to look at things differently there. So yeah, peak time's probably 30, low time's probably like 8 or 10 snow ambassadors, and low time's pretty nice. It's really fun in there at low time. But to that end, any of you looking for an experience, when they reopen, if you guys want to go out and check it out, you just let me know and I'll make sure that there's a pathway in. Even if you wanted to go teach there, probably you could go teach there and just moonlight a little bit and try it out in the summertime, and might be a really fun novelty for you. Might pay for at least part of your trip out there.
Are you serious?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, if you want to do that. So
they live in Manhattan.
Oh, then you should totally do it. Like if you want to take a break and get out there, I would strongly recommend that you guys go check it out. At the very least, please go check it out and just go have an experience. What you'll find, you'll go in there and it'll be like, it's tiny. That's what you're going to think. Because, the run's like, 700 or 800 feet long. But when you really look at what it is in terms of experience and what it can be, and you imagine that experience from the eyes of a family who's just checking it out and going through the those first experiences, and just and also what it can mean. Imagine that your fitness experience in New York City, instead of going to the gym, was you hop on a bus and 30 minutes later you're at the mall, and then you do a 2-hour snowboard workout on snow, and then you hop on the bus and go home, or you ride your bike there. A lot of people they're finding that people are actually riding their bikes there to go and get their snowboard fitness workout. It's crazy. And I think it's got a lot of interesting potential. It'll be really unique to see where it goes. And of course, if you want to get involved with it, then I absolutely recommend that you do. It's a pretty monumental thing for the US. I know it's not new to the world, but it's for the US, it's very unique. And it'll probably lead to at least 1 or 2 more of those being built here in the not too distant future.
So if people are going to bike there, like what's the deal with rental equipment? Do people who can ride rent gear still? Because it's 2 hours. It's a pain in the ass to haul that gear all the way from the city. Like it's either a train and a bus or multiple buses and trains.
Yeah, a lot of people are, and they have higher end equipment, that's more performance based. I wouldn't call it like necessarily the ideal, but I mean, I've always loved the LTR boards. Because if you guys remember way back when Burton launched LTR, before that they launched a board called the Dominant. The Dominant was a park board. The LTR board is the Dominant, and just turned into a beginner learning snowboard. And so I love that snowboard just for playing around, and for what you're going to do in there. Hell yes, I'd say rent and just ride your bike and do it that way. Or you can fly. There are a lot of people that hit the airport like Newark or JFK or LaGuardia, and they'll just hop in an Uber and come over and go skiing or snowboarding for a couple hours on their layover. They had a significant amount, like a measurable amount of business that way, which is kind of crazy. I thought that was kind of neat.
You guys can all come visit me. You don't have to have a layover there.
Yeah, right.
Is there a large amount of injuries with that kind of mindset of just like, I just want to try it?
That was my biggest concern. So you can imagine I'm kind of a risk guy. So I've spent a lot of time in ski area management risk, and I've sat on a witness stand multiple times defending the ski industry. And when I walk in there, I go, they're going to do, no, don't go up there. No, don't do that. And like, I'm always thinking on those terms. The reality is no, there's really not. They're having I'd say nothing abnormal in terms of rate of injury. If anything, it's probably lower, because in general, snow surface has something to do with that. The volume on that slope has something to do with that. I think if they overcrowded that slope, it would be nutso. I mean, then you'd probably see more collisions, that kind of thing, but they're not. And it's not even a part of the business model. Bottom line is that there's, from what I've seen in the 3.5 weeks that I've spent there, is a very, very efficient operation, and people are just adapting and enjoying it in their own way. It's really cool. And, Train park's really small. So there's always potential for injury. Nobody's safe in this sport, but relatively they're relatively safe. And they've got a full patrol staff there. And if you think about it, they're in a mall, so EMS is right there. So if something did happen, they're much closer to, some of the best medical facilities in the world, which is pretty cool.
Sweet. That was
okay, Chris, do you know what percentage of people show up to the mall to just do shopping, see that there's snowboarding, and decide what the hell, let's give
that's a great question.
it a shot?
Yeah, no, good question. As of right now, the mall was scheduled to open in March. So the retail and food services in the mall hadn't even opened. They were just getting ready to open right when COVID hit. So they were on a scheduled opening where first they opened the amusement park and a couple of shops, like Whoopi Goldberg has a shop in there. Just a couple of very specific shops open. Then they were opening the ski resort, the ski facility. And then they were going to open the water park in March, along with the majority of the retail facilities and all the food services. And I'll tell you right now, if you guys decided you were going to go out there, imagine the experience you could give some of your clients. You could go out there and do an incredible New York experience do some ski or snowboard instruction. And then, you know, experience other facilities there in the mall. Like, what an amazing, I always think of it from an instructor or coach's perspective of like, what an awesome experience I could give people just by, you know, being immersed in that environment, and the tourism aspect of it. It will be incredible. And especially in the off season. Like, I don't know if you guys have, you know, committed clients. I'm sure some of you do, but think of that as an option. You know, also think of Mount Hood as an option. I keep coming back to that. By the way, we're opening. We are going to open. So Hood's going to open, and Big Snow will reopen. They're getting ready to submit their proposal to their state governor to reopen. So that's going to happen in due time. But I would imagine that as early as possible in the summer, you'll have at least 2 options to go get on snow, unless A Basin opens up and does like a late season thing, which they might be able to, depending on your snowpack. But yeah, fingers crossed. I know, man. Right now, they should just be open. I feel like they should just be open right now, but I feel like I'd be way healthier and feeling better about myself if I were outside hiking a jump or shredding laps on, you know, corny bumps someplace right now. Man, I don't know about you guys. I freaking love moguls, and I would love to be riding moguls somewhere. Any other questions or thoughts? I know it was just a walkthrough and you know, just a experiential kind of thing, but I would say, if you imagine this is what it's forced me to do. I have had to completely rebuild the way I approach beginners in that place. So imagine an experience where you, even with all your expertise, are no longer an expert, and you have to relearn how to deliver an experience that is truly based on the needs of the customer. Try that. Just challenge yourself to do that at your next opportunity. And that's what's happening at Big Snow. That's what's happening right now. Best example I can give you before, you know, we can wrap up whenever you guys are ready, but the best example I can give you is I watched a level 3 certified ski instructor stand a group of 10 people in that facility and talk to them for 15 minutes. And then I watched a brand new ski instructor who had never taught skiing before, literally had never taught before that day, take their group, put skis on, start teaching, you know, steering movements and some wedge movements and different things. And then they went skiing. In 15 minutes, that group with that beginner instructor, that brand new instructor, they were skiing the bank turns in total control, having a great time. And that other instructor was still at the bottom of the hill talking and just getting started. And I always reflect on that, because it's made me, when I travel around the country, it's made me watch even the best instructors, how they approach the beginning of the lesson, how they move their people, how they manage that experience. And it's been a real challenge for me that I've really enjoyed. Like, I love it, because when I teach beginners now, I catch myself going, oh, what am I doing? I'm preaching, I'm talking, I'm doing gospel up here on a soapbox, instead of putting them in their equipment and letting them feel the sensations of the sport. And that's really what we're trying to focus on out there, is just, we got a whole brand new herd of people who aren't really instructors, and they are so open to a new way to approach it. It's just what they know. There is no history. And the ones who are struggling are the ones who have history. Anyone who has history, they're just looking at it going, whoa, this is crazy. It's a very cool thing. And I think what will come from it is probably some really unique ideas and, you know, brand new from people that, not even from me, from, you know, first year instructors at that facility. They'll be coming up with ideas that I don't think, you know, we've ever thought of, because we're focused in this one zone and we're being innovative and creative in our lane, but they're not even in this lane. They're outside that lane. They're looking at it from a different perspective, and they're going to create some pretty cool things. So.
Sweet. Well, thanks for sharing. Does anybody have anything else?
Where do they get experience riding? Like, can they ride? Is there like new hire training, or is it mostly teach based?
I taught 7 or 8 people that work there right now that were working there up until they closed, literally the day before we opened, how to snowboard, and then another 10 of them how to ski. Then they went and taught lessons. And it sounds crazy, and I thought it was crazy too, but I'm like, all right, this is what we're doing. And amazingly, it's just, they were so good with people. But yeah, that's it. They're getting it right there. If they don't come with it, they're getting it right there.
As a retention and career development thing, though, they'd either go out quick or they might not stay in the industry for long, though, which might be a good thing. It might not be a good thing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because you'll have some people that will stay with that job just because they're, it's a good job in their area. It's better than flipping burgers. So, and truly, it's a really dynamic and fun job, and it's a fun place to work. Great atmosphere. So there are a lot of people there that are in that category. It's just a good job, and it's easy and convenient. And then there'll be people who will come in, get the bug, and then they'll bail and go to a partner resort, and Big Snow will send them wherever, Aspen or some other place. And then there are people who I think just will do it because it's convenient. So there are a lot of instructors that work at other mountains in the area, but they have to drive 45 minutes to 2 hours to go to the resort that they normally work at. And they can come in moonlight and just teach a few lessons a week or 2-3 days a week or even full time, and get a ton of experience teaching. And I met a lot of instructors. These were some of my favorite people that were very experienced instructors. And they literally came there just because they wanted to teach. They weren't there because they wanted to ski. They wanted to teach beginners. And that was so freaking cool to see people coming in there, not to be the best instructor of the private lessons and the high-end clientele and that kind of thing, the high experience. They were coming in there because they wanted to hone their craft as a teacher of beginners. And that's where I think our industry has really missed the mark. Even in our exams don't even hit that mark. Our level 1 doesn't even hit that mark, really. I mean, it's certainly, if you can pass a level 1, you're going to be a pretty darn decent instructor. You can assume that, but the level 1 doesn't necessarily focus on how to give a beginner experience on day 1 on the 26th of December, so.
Very true. Very true. All right. Has anybody got anything else? No? Beautiful. Well, thank you very much, Chris, for the walkthrough. That was awesome. It was super sweet to see all the ins and outs and the craziness the day before and all of that. That was really sweet. So thanks so much for sharing. Tyson, I know you said you had something that's for after whatever. All good. Also, thanks, Tony. I know he's not here anymore, but thanks to everybody for being here, for making this what it is. And there's more of these going on all the time. So Northwest and Western and then East as well. Just get in the community, So
this Friday in the Northwest, we're going to do a technical interview, which will get into some I'm trying to get these really instructor focused. I'm trying to do a few of them. And then we're doing a presentation on outward mindset, which is really cool. That one will be pretty powerful. I think that one will turn out to be very powerful. So
awesome. And then next week we've got A.D. Smith and Doug Fagel presenting. A.D. has topic to be announced, and Doug is interactive progression building. So that's next week on the old Rocky Mountain one. So if you're around, please join us. And anything more to add there, Lynn?
I think you covered it. If anybody wants to present, let me know, Damien and Jamie. Other than that, thank you so much, guys. This has been awesome. And I will see everyone next week.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening, guys. It was cool to share that story with you. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.